Greetings and welcome to my new calculus channel. I'm John Gabriel. So, in the previous video, to which I've received a very strong response, it's called the dick picture. Actually, it's the big picture, but I call it the dick picture. Gilbert Strang's MIT lecture on derivatives. I received a lot of hate messages from obviously morons and stupid people, which I don't really care too much about. But if you're wondering why I hate this individual so much, it's not for lack of reason. So a lot of people have asked me what happened with Gilbert Strang, and that's what I'm going to tell you about in the story. Okay, so in 2005, November of 2005, my beloved mother died. Okay, I was doing quite well then. I had a lot of money in the bank. I didn't owe anything to anybody. I had 2 paid off houses. I had a Visa card with $100,000 on it and a hell of a lot more money than most people make in a lifetime. Okay? 2007, I had a moment of insanity. I gave everything I had away. Sold everything, gave everything away, wanted to kill myself. It was the year that things began to take a downturn in my life. It's been a roller coaster of a ride since then. Only recently has the journey calmed down a bit. It hasn't improved drastically, but it's calmed a bit. So what happened then? Okay, so this post here was made in 2014. What happened before 2014? Let me explain. So I was in the US and I tried to look for work, but these people had already destroyed my reputation before 2014 because I was on sci.math in 2005 and I was refuting their silly arguments even far back as then. So I was at 2 jobs from which I was unfairly and unjustly dismissed, both Jew-owned private schools. One in Arizona, Scottsdale, called Rancho Solano Preparatory, in which I didn't even get to teach half a day. And I was fired. And another one in San Jose, California, Bases Independent, also owned by immigrant Jews from, I don't know, somewhere in Eastern Europe. At any rate, so I would have been on the streets and nobody in the US would employ the best mathematics teacher because they're all fucking morons. I mean, Americans are generally the dumbest dimwits under the sun. You know, they have this opinion of their abilities and this deluded image of their knowledge. I mean, they can't even know of anything outside their immediate circle and their immediate state, but yet they're so smart and it's a typical Dunning-Kruger syndrome. But at any rate, and this thing, it filters through not only with the dumb Americans, it's the case from the very top Americans, you know, the ones in institutions like MIT, Harvard. Jack Hazinger was in Harvard. David Ulrich, Oklahoma State. What's that other guy? David Joyce from Clark University. I can't remember their names. It's not important. But look what they started doing in 2014. So just to complete my story before 2014, I went to China to avoid homelessness, not knowing that several years later I'd be homeless. And I'd be homeless for 6 months. And I'd come close to ending my life. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but on countless times. Okay. I was in a terrible state. Then one of my last jobs in China was probably the third one from the end. I contracted aspergillosis in the most filthy city in the world, Shijiazhuang, which is up in Hebei province. Okay. I mean, there they defecate and urinate on the sidewalks. They have open sewers. There are no trees except in the parks, and basically it's a concrete jungle, and the skies are either gray, dark gray, or black because there's so much pollution. So my lungs were affected terribly. I almost died. In fact, I couldn't walk 15 feet. One of my students' fathers had to come with me all the way to Beijing. And he didn't leave me until the suitcase was on the plane and I was on the plane. And I was in a wheelchair. I was carted to the plane on a wheelchair. So this is lead up to this contract killing of Gabriel, okay? When I went to the hospital in Houston, the immigration officer said, "Mr. Gabriel, you sure you don't want me to call an ambulance? Says you don't look well." Well, the minute I got to my motel in Humble, I couldn't climb up, never mind the flight of steps, but the first flight of stairs. I couldn't get up the first flight of stairs. I was so sick. So I went to Kingwood Medical Center, where I was treated for, I think, about 3 weeks. I was in intensive care. And they didn't think I was going to make it, but I made it. I was still coughing out huge bowls of gray, green, silvery muck out of my lungs. And the aspergillosis hadn't cleared completely because in 2013, I had another rebound. Thankfully, now I don't have it anymore. But 2013, I had another rebound. And in 2014, I was in South Africa living with aspergillosis and something called prednisone. It's a terrible oral drug. Makes your face and cheeks go puffy, destroys your inside, destroys your organs. Literally, I mean, it just damages you so much. It causes you to build up fluid. It's also used as an anti-rejection drug. I mean, I never thought that after using it for 5 years that I'd ever be able to get off it because I couldn't breathe if I didn't take it. So all this stuff was happening, and then some fucking idiot called Nomen Nescio from I don't know where posted this thing on sci.math. Google posting cunt. Gabriel can be eliminated easiest by contracting South Africa. Everything is possible. No more than $500. So I basically saved the comment just so nobody could delete it. And then the shit started flying all around. So you're reading all the posts, of course. You narcissistic, creep brain, rotting fly maggots, green, poo, pussy, stinky, whatever. This is to me, by the way, is this pisshead, whatever it is, Amber, replied this to me. I think it was a woman. Oh, and this was my first encounter with that biggest piece of shit on the planet called Jean-Pierre Massadre, and this is one of his first aliases, YBM. I'm recording this video for history. So he is in France, so he says, "You're right, Gabriel, 500 is far overpriced." He's saying Gabriel, but I didn't write that. I didn't write this. Nomen Nescio wrote this. So the idiot didn't even pay attention to who wrote it. I mean, he was such a sleepy French Jew dimwit. And then, of course, again, I refreshed that comment because they're making threats, you see, and trying to scare me. Little did they know who they were dealing with. So the first encounter with this creep from MIT, Gilbert Strang, comes in this comment. Watch this. So you're advertising for your own termination, whatever that may mean. Wow, but kind of figures. Guess you must know what you're doing. Of course, I didn't advertise that. I mean, I'm not Nomen Nescio. But again, they don't pay attention, or if they did, they were trying to, produce a straw man argument, or they were erecting a straw man. So it says, why not do it 100 times a day and spread it around the news group a bit more to increase the eyefall? There's mad, there's stark raving loony, and then there's the idiot, John Gabriel. Okay, that's the first slur from How Do I Know Port 563 is this bastard? Well, you can read throughout those threads and you'll know that eventually it was one of his very own students who betrayed him. Okay. Also an idiot, and the reason why he was betrayed by that, I think it was an Asian student, was that the Asian student didn't like the idea there were so many Jews posting on sci.math. He said there are far too many Jews on there and they're all a bunch of idiots. In any case, and if that Asian student happens to be watching my video, be very careful because I have that email, you stupid Asian dimwit. Okay, but thank you anyway for revealing it to me. So YBM continues. He says, far overpriced, sure. This is a scandal. Your life is not worth 2 cents. I mean, these are supposedly reputable mathematicians. I think YBM has a master's degree in mathematics or computer science. I don't know what, from whatever university. And I believe that YBM and Gilbert Strang are very good friends. Possibly Jean-Pierre Massager was a student of Gilbert Strang. I don't know, or maybe he was what would you call it, a sex boy or something. I don't know. Anyway, so he comes back and he says, so predictable, yawn. At least the idiot Harris could do basic algebra. Had an undergrad. They don't know anything about me, but they're saying already that I don't have any degree, etc., etc. Onlookers, please note it is Gabriel himself who is spamming the news groups with an apparent solicitation for himself being eliminated. Totally untrue. Never did that, by the way. Nowhere. I mean, there's no. So he read. What do you call these again? You call these strawman arguments. So the slander continues. But now watch how Gilbert Strang takes what I said seriously. So I found out where the shitbag Jean-Pierre Massager was working, and I actually reported him. He worked at some place called Logiciels Libre Cher Alcove, wherever that is. And I did contact him. So I said, really, watch me. And Port, who's a good friend of Jean-Pierre Massager, says, do that in any negative way, asshole, and you will spend much of the rest of your life wishing you had a time machine to undo your action. This is an MIT professor, people, of mathematics. Not just an MIT. They're all morons, but this is a special kind of moron. It's a distinguished professor. You know that finite element method that he came out with? It's a load of crap, but he didn't actually come up with it. He took something called I can't even remember now what it is. It's not even remarkable, but you can check it out on the web. And so anyway, I responded, I shall do it, and in a way that causes maximum damage. Baboon that you are. I piss and shit on your threats as I do you. By this time, the gloves are off. I mean, this guy was attacking me, and I wanted him to stop. So I reported Jean-Pierre Massager and told him he has his buddy to thank for the threat. And of course, Port, P, he is almost certainly lying. Not that you have done anything wrong, merely commenting on the pricing within the spamming advertisement. It says, but communicate with with dev.now MIT if you need to. See? Wow. The idiot didn't notice here, but this was the first piece of evidence that links him to Gilbert Strang at MIT. The other interesting addresses you find in the headers are either bogus, spam trapped, or directed at a moron, so don't use them. And he says, by the way, my surname is not null, but the combination was irresistible. So the back and forth continues, and I warn Jean-Pierre Massager that he should behave himself, especially when he needs a job. But his obscene language, threats, and vile wishes, I mean, you can't do those sort of things on the internet and think that you can get away with them. So, yes, I caused him to get fired from that position. And I'm pretty glad about that because he was in a scheme for a contract murder. And these guys, it wasn't a joke, by the way, people. They're trying to make it seem like a joke, okay? But it wasn't a joke. It was pretty serious. I did get death threats, not only from these guys, but from others. So He says then, this Brian Tennison, I don't even know where it is. He says records can be faked. There are even records that indicate your intelligence. Don't know where he came from. Then another one. Gabriel abandoned the continuous destroying of sci.math before someone free us of your obnoxious trash. They were irritated because I was posting comments. And the reason I was posting comments was to refute their crap. And they couldn't argue back at me. So naturally, when the debate is lost, all that's left is libel. And boy, did they start flinging mud and shit at me. So Brian Tennison writes, ha ha ha, personally, I think the attention whore, and first thing he does, starts attributing mental diseases, had faked the message in the first place. It's pretty obvious if you check the headers of any of these comments that nomen nescio is not me, has nothing to do with me. And of course, John Gabriel, he says, madder than a puddle full of Kentucky bullfrogs and utterly ignorant of mathematics. Okay, and then my first encounter with the other big piece of shit from Canada, Dan Christensen, who had a habit of thinking that he could just type up things and make them fact. So he said here it would be a very good idea. This wasn't my quote, by the way. I didn't even say that. But in retrospect, I think I may even change my mind on that. A lot of the Jews on here did attack me, so I hate them. And of course, I never, ever, ever said this, by the way. I never, ever made that claim. All those who don't accept new calculus, you better say goodbye to your kids because John Gabriel is coming. It shouldn't surprise anyone if nomen nescio, Latin for I don't know his name, is yet another of JG's many aliases. No. Nomen nescio is actually an Asian, as far as I understand, an Asian student, an ex-Asian student of Gilbert Strang. Or he might be from Eastern Europe. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing. So he apparently got booted from Quora for having 4 different aliases. That's not true either. I've only been on Quora twice and been banned both times. So the next one says, the matter is a very serious threat. And as I explained, I'm cutting Dobie's daily ration in half, just in case a violently inclined baboon filled, as we can easily prove, with numerous death fantasies, and of doing actual grievous injury to others, certainly you and I, or did he think that we were going to stand idly by while he released his piss and shit onto us? Okay, now I'm laughing at that in retrospect, but let me tell you, I was very angry at the time. And this is outright bully. This is outright harassment, outright bullying of somebody on the internet. It wasn't just one person against me. It was these stupid fucks. And then I took the gloves off. I said, nobody gives a shit what you consider. And I do personally piss and shit on you. So we continued the back and forth. And then this idiot throws in his 2 cents. And he says, enlightening but I can't believe that your post was not flagged for abuse, and all of his responses were. So all my responses are flagged for abuse, but not the one about me for being a contract killer. And is there any bias here? Oh, you think? You think there might be some bias there? How can you suggest murdering someone and not be flagged for abuse? Amazing. Who's in charge here? So this guy has a few morals, apparently. Ken Curici. I don't know who he is. But anyway. A death threat is not just a bias, it's a felony in the USA. In charge here is Usenet. They don't care. Okay, they're academic Nazis, and you can't express your opinion about mathematics without being threatened by death, called all sorts of horrible names, have mental illness attributed to you, and of course they knew nothing about my beliefs, and more importantly, what math was being discussed. So forget about Dan Christensen, he's a nobody. Let's go to the distinguished professor, who basically doesn't just de-escalate the lies of Dan Christensen, but he But he escalates it. He says, much more, time for an update. And then he says, and yes, perhaps Ken Kurichi needs filling in on the likely authorship of the lead post. And then again, posts which are taken in complete miscontext. And, again, nothing that actually has anything wrong with it. Hitler was a genius and a very talented artist. As from a moral point of view, again, his actions can't be judged because his morals are different. Okay, so I'm not going to get into an argument about that. I don't personally like Hitler, and I think what he did was vile and abhorrent, but I can understand why. And so, of course, I started bringing these things in because Gilbert Strang's beloved student told me about the number of Jews on this news group and that they were going to say anything they could to belittle me. One of their own kind, by the way. I happen to be 25% Jewish. My father was over 55% Jewish. So here again, Gilbert Strang. Beef and pork are different. Bush meat eating baboon boy, sigh. I don't hate Jews, which, by the way, believe it or not, even at that time, I still didn't hate Jews. Now I think I do, but back then I didn't. Liar. Okay. However, not one lie by me can be found by you. This is Gilbert Strang. And then he says, your claimed inability to read message headers and libels. I never said anything like that. That's just a false claim. And then he says, problems, like everything else to do with your miserable, frustrated, failed life. You see how the bullying is coming across there, how the intent is to destroy me, libel me. It says, wrong on both counts. You are a baboon, not a lion, and you are not yet caged. Give us time. Okay. So constantly, Gilbert Strang spent a lot of his time on here, by the way. As you can see, he's supposed to be a math professor at MIT, a distinguished math professor. And of course, a lot of the claims towards me are obviously false and have nothing to do with what's being discussed or even that it actually mattered in any way. So, and again, you see, I forgot to note that my students probably find it side-splitting that the baboon looks into the mirror and sees a caged lion. So he was discussing these things with his students at the time. He didn't know there was a traitor inside his room. Probably Lex Friedman was one of his students because Lex Friedman is so much up Gilbert Strang's arse that I bet he's been brown-nosed many times, and I'm sure Gilbert Strang's arse doesn't have very good hygiene. Possibly other things lurking there too. I once told Gilbert Strang that nobody in the gay capital of Africa would want to touch his puckered arse, and I think he was very offended. And yes, I enjoyed telling him that. So finally, Dan Christensen gets his garbage reported as abuse. Then, again, they started forging headers. In other words, they were pasting comments on here that were not made by me. All right. And it doesn't end there. This other idiot, Alan McKenzie, this guy is such a fucking moron. Probably just as stupid as Dan Christensen. So, no, nobody hates you. Just not that important. Nobody's jealous of your work. It just isn't significant. Oops. No, it's very significant when I'm getting so much action, so much response. And then, of course, Zealous Malem jumps in and he says, all I've done is pointing out how retarded you are. And, of course, Chris Tomasin, he's just a little flea on the side. And he says, if you're receiving death threats, you need to contact law enforcement. By the way, I did contacted the FBI, contacted law enforcement in South Africa where I was at the time. Nothing happened. Okay, these guys got away scot-free. So, Gilbert Strang continued. And then finally, I I found out who he was. So, and in another post, I actually revealed what because this isn't the only thread where he's attacked me. He's attacked me on many other threads. So whenever you see the handle port 563, that's Gilbert Strang, 100%. He also used to work at the MathWorks in Boston, I think, or somewhere in Massachusetts. Those idiots who produce MATLAB, etc. And he is a vile individual, a horrible man. And all this time, by the way, I was extremely ill, seriously depressed. Didn't think I was going to make it every other week. I was in an awful physical position and a mental position. It took a long time for me to get out of that. But I can't forget how I was attacked by these people and why any open-minded individuals would attack somebody whose only goal was to discuss math, to reveal and share ideas. That was the only goal. But you get attacked from every single angle. So these individuals are evil individuals. They don't realize the consequences of their actions. Okay? They're despicable pieces of shit. So, really, that's what I'm telling you. They are responsible for a lot of my problems. Okay? They made it impossible for me to get a job anywhere in the US. Okay? So, I mean, one of the schools, the Rancho Solano, as I was walking by a boardroom, I saw them with a lot of parents and whatnot. And then the principal called me and says, we're having to fire you because, and she reveals a stack of papers about that, well, maybe almost a foot long, saying these are things that we found on the internet. And, I tried to explain to them that most of that was garbage. She wouldn't hear of it. She wouldn't even hear a response. Her first and only statement, which she repeated, is, "We've made up our minds. We've made up our minds." Yes, that's right. So I was fired unjustly from that school. And even in the period of time that I was there, a half day, a teacher who I had met told me that the students actually did like me. And it had nothing to do with the students, but the parents. So I don't know the exact circumstances of the truth. And I don't care anymore any longer because now I don't need them. But they did seriously destroy my life. And Gilbert Strang is one of the prime masterminds behind this very evil individual, very evil man. So before you think of posting comments on my channel, you despicable little piece of shit, whoever you are, don't you dare post comments on my YouTube column calling me names, because I'm in the right and you're all wrong, and I do know better than you. It's not delusional belief, it's fact. I happen to be a genius and you're all fucking morons. That's the truth of it. Well, if you're not a rare subscriber, become one. Click like on my videos. So I've told you all the story about Gilbert Strang. I hope I'm never asked about this again, because it's caused a lot of ill feeling in my life. And whenever I remember that vile reptile, it makes me feel like vomiting. He never apologized, by the way, never. Neither did any of the others. And there were many on that site, on this news group, many Jews especially, whose sole purpose was to defame me, to discredit me. Fuck you too. And to all of you who are on that forum, a big fuck you. And Honestly, I hope there is another Holocaust and that you're all destroyed, even though I'm Jewish. I hate you with every meaning that is possible in that. How dare you? How dare you? You bastards. You vile vermin. You scum. Follow me on academia.edu. And I don't know if this video is going to stay up long, but if it doesn't, guess what? You can find it on Odyssey. So if you don't find it here anymore, you're going to find it on Odyssey. And by the way, they're going to try and get this video struck down automatically, but it had to come out. It had to come out. Okay. Oh, this is by the way, not R. And yeah, I'm sometimes in a bit of a state, but follow me on academia.edu and tell your friends about this and click like. And if you're tempted to post a comment, choke on a chicken bone, you fucking moron. I'm John Gabriel, and this is a New Calculus channel. Till next time, fuck you.